Hey friends, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayla and thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you couldn't tell by the title, this video is going to be 10 tips for student teachers or soon to be student teachers. So I am currently wrapping up my last semester of student teaching. I'm in a 9th grade biology classroom for the most part, but I also teach environmental systems, which is 10th, 11th, and 12th grade as well. And I have been loving every second of it. I can't wait for my own classroom. I'm so excited. This year has been definitely a crazy one because of COVID and all that stuff. And it's been a lot of adapting for everyone. So in a way, it was selfishly kind of nice just because my mentor teacher and the biology team, we were all kind of adapting to this new teaching situation, if you will, together. And it kind of made us bond over it, and it's just been a really good start of the year, and it just makes me really excited to have my own classroom. But anyways, I also student taught 1 day a week last semester, so January to May, in an 8th grade GT biology classroom, and it's been a big difference coming from working with GT kids to working with on-level kids. So I've kind of got to see both sides of the world of teaching, if you will. I'm gonna stop rambling and I'm just gonna get into the tips that I've learned in this past year. Okay, so tip number 1, and if you see me looking down, it's because I have my notes in front of me. I wrote all of these down so that I can not ramble as much, hopefully. So the first tip that I have is to get as involved as you possibly can. So go to all the meetings your teacher goes to, do all of the dress up days that are offered for teachers and that teachers and students are participating in. For example, we did a Red Ribbon Week this semester, and then we also did homecoming week, and the biology team dressed up every single day for both of those weeks. It was so much fun. We did a Harry Potter day, we did a Ninja Turtle day, we did all kinds of stuff, and it was just so much fun. And it's also really fun to get to see the kids' reaction to whatever you dress up as, because it kind of lets them into your personality a little bit more. And I don't know, it's just a lot of fun, so I'd really recommend dressing up if you can on those dress up days. Also, get to school when your teacher gets to school, leave when your teacher leaves. Go to all the meetings, the ARDs, the team meetings, the professional development meetings. Go to everything you possibly can and just be as involved as you possibly can. And then kind of going along with that, make sure that you help your team out as much as you can. So if they're asking for ideas and you have one, voice it, just so that you can kind of get your idea out there. And if they take it, cool. If they don't, also cool, because you're a brand new teacher. So yeah, get as involved as you possibly can. So my second tip is kind of for maybe the first part of student teaching or while you're in college trying to become a teacher, and that would be to maybe sub in a district around you if you can, or get some kind of teaching position inside of the school. So like maybe a paraprofessional, a substitute teacher, an interventionist, something like that, just to kind of get your foot in the door. That way you're comfortable being around other teachers, principals, all of that stuff. It really helps if you have some kind of experience in the school going into student teaching, just so you're a little bit more confident being around the students and teachers and all that stuff. I personally was a sub for about 5 months, and then I got hired as an intervention specialist, a math intervention specialist specifically for 7th grade students, and I was in that position for 3 months, so January to March, and then COVID hit, and unfortunately I lost that position because the whole position kind of revolved around getting students prepared to pass the STAR test, S-T-A-A-R, which is Texas standardized test. The governor of Texas actually canceled STAR for the year because kids weren't really in school, so that kind of made my job null and void. So I lost that position. It really stunk because I was really getting into my groove. I was really enjoying being around those kids and the teachers that I was working with. It just was a really awesome environment. But, you know, I understand why they had to let me go, because there was no more funding for that position, since that position pretty much didn't exist anymore. Anyways, all of that to say, get some kind of position inside of a school if you can, if you have the time to, because it really will help you feel more confident being around the students and just working in a school environment. Tip number 3 would be to make sure that you're an asset to your mentor teacher and not just another thing that they have on their plate. And I'm sorry if you hear noises. My neighbors upstairs have little kids and I can hear them running around, so I'm sure you can too. Sorry about that. Yeah, make sure you're an asset to your mentor teacher and not just something else that they have to worry about. Especially in this COVID world, teachers have so much on their plate now more than ever. And I went into student teaching wanting to do everything I possibly could to help my mentor teacher out and make sure that I wasn't a burden for him or something else he had to worry about. I want it to be as helpful as I possibly can. So some ways you could help your mentor teacher out is maybe if they let you take the reins on planning some lessons. Of course, if they let you, it is their classroom overall. It's their name on the report cards. It's their name on the star grades. So this is kind of something that you would just have to talk to your mentor teacher about, make sure they're comfortable with it. But my mentor teacher specifically, since we have 2 preps, biology and environmental systems, he kind of let me take control of environmental systems, and I've been planning a lot of the lessons for the systems class, and I've really been enjoying it. It's giving me a lot of experience in planning lessons, and you always need experience planning lessons because that is a big part of teaching. So I feel like I'm helping him out in that way because he can kind of focus on biology and I kind of focus on systems, and it's something that's working for us. Another thing you could do to help your mentor teacher out would be to kind of take on some responsibilities to the lesson, the load that they have, so that they can kind of focus on teaching. So some things that I did was I took over majority of the grading from my mentor teacher, just so that was one thing he didn't have to worry about. I helped clean the classroom because in the COVID world, we have to clean the classroom a lot. I help manage the students while he's teaching so that he doesn't really have to focus on correcting behavior, and I'm kind of there to do that quietly while he's teaching to not distract the rest of the class. And just things like that. Do something that will kind of help them not feel so overwhelmed by having you there. And another way you could help your teacher out is, I know student teachers have so many questions, I have so many questions, but make sure that you find an appropriate time to ask those questions, because if you're just bombarding them all day with all these questions, they're going to be overwhelmed, and honestly they're probably not going to want to answer your questions just because they're tired of hearing so many questions. So maybe at the beginning of your student teaching experience, sit down with your teacher, ask them what would be an appropriate time for you to ask questions during the day. They might not be the kind of teacher that wants to talk about school during lunch, and they probably maybe don't want to talk about questions first thing in the morning if they're not a morning person. You know, just figure out the correct time to ask all the questions that you have, because it's important to ask questions, but it's also important to make sure that your mentor teacher is in the right headspace to answer them. Tip number 4 would be to make sure that you make your presence known on campus, but in a good way. So make sure that you introduce yourself to whatever team you're working with. So I introduced myself to all of the biology teachers because that's the team that I'd be working with. I did that the very first day, and we've had a great team relationship since then. It's really helped me out. Make sure that you introduce yourself to other teachers on campus so that they can kind of get to know your name. Especially introduce yourself to administration. You see them in the hallway, go up to them, shake their hand. Well, maybe not because of COVID. Just say how excited you are to be there, how thankful you are to be there, how awesome the school is. Make sure they know your name and when you're graduating, because at the end of the day, they could be a reference for you. And if you're the kind of person that is a little shy or introverted, which is me, I am totally an introvert, this could be something that's going to take you out of your comfort zone, but it's really important to do it, because if you are the kind of person that just kind of slides by and doesn't really introduce yourself to anyone, and your name comes through the job application pool, they're probably not going to be super excited about hiring you because they might not remember you, or they might think that you were kind of standoffish and weren't too excited to be at that school. Really make sure that your presence is known. Make sure that they know how excited you are to be there, how thankful, and just get to know them. Have fun with it, because at the end of the day, getting to know more people in education is always a great thing to kind of build your network. Tip number 5, I believe, is to start building relationships with your students as soon as you get there. So the first day of school, or the first few days of school, we typically do little about me activities so that we can get to know the students and the students can get to know us. And it's really important as student teachers to participate in those so that students can get to know you and you can get to know them. Building relationships with your students, or building that rapport with your students, will really help in classroom management, because if they know you and they know you know them, then they're going to want to respect you more and to listen to you when you're trying to get them to listen or pay attention. It'll also give you a lot more confidence when you take control of the classroom, because you know the kids that you're teaching and you know that they know you. So it just makes things a lot more comfortable if you start from the very beginning in building that rapport with your students. And then also it'll just help with classroom management, because if they know that you know them and you care about them, then they will be much more likely to respect you when you're teaching and want to learn from you, because they know that you care about them and that you know them. So this next tip kind of goes along with the last one, and that is to start managing the classroom or managing your students as soon as you get there, from day one. While you're building those relationships, make sure your students know that you are just as much a teacher as your mentor teacher is. You are literally only a few months shy of being a certified teacher. So it's important that they show you respect and treat you like a teacher. Of course, you have to earn that respect by building the rapport and relationships with them, but also they should kind of just know from the beginning that you are just as much a teacher as every other teacher in that building. It's also important to know that as soon as you start acting like a teacher and kind of expecting those students to respect you, then they will respect you and they'll most likely treat you as a teacher from day one if you set the expectation that they will treat you like a teacher, if that makes sense. I feel like I jumbled that all weird. Moral of the story is start acting like a teacher, start managing your students from day one, because if you kind of start off easy and maybe don't manage behavior, let some things slide, then when you finally take control of the classroom, they're going to think that they can do those things while you're teaching. And it's going to be a lot hard to rein in their behavior and get their respect if you let all of those things slide for a few months or even a few weeks. So make sure that you really start managing them in the classroom from the beginning so that when you do take control over the classroom, they respect you and you won't have as many behavior problems. So tip number 7 might not be completely applicable to everyone, but I live in Texas, so I am seeking a Texas certification. And this next tip would be to get all of your certification tests out of the way before you're in full-time student teaching. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I did student teaching for 1 day a week the first semester, and then the second semester was 5 days a week. And during that 1 day a week semester, I also had one class, I had a full-time job, and then I also was studying for all of my certification exams so that I wouldn't have to worry about it during my full-time student teaching. So that's my biggest tip, is to, if you can, try to get all of your certification tests out of the way before you begin your full-time student teaching. Full-time student teaching is a full-time job, and if you have another job part-time on top of it, it makes things really, really stressful. And then also having to worry about passing your certification exams, or EdTPA, I think is something that other states do. Whatever your requirement is to get a teacher certification, try to do all of that before your full-time student teaching. It will seriously make your life so much easier because you can just solely focus on student teaching, interacting with your students, learning all that you can from your mentor teachers and the teachers around you, and just soaking it all in. It makes things so much easier. So try to get all your certification tests out of the way if you can. Tip number 8 is to listen, learn, and observe. Soak everything in that you possibly can. Ask as many questions as you possibly can, of course at the appropriate time, because right now is the only time that you really have to make a mistake and have someone right there to correct it as soon as you make it. Usually first-year teachers have a mentor teacher as well, but they're not in the classroom with you, right? They have their own classroom to worry about, so you kind of have to find a time to ask them questions because they're busy running their own classroom and you're busy running your own classroom. But when you're a student teacher, your mentor teacher is in the exact same class with you. So if you make a mistake, it's not as big of a deal if you make it in your mentor teacher's classroom as if you make it in your own classroom. Because if you make a mistake while you're student teaching, you have your mentor teacher right there to correct it and fix it and tell you what you did wrong and how you can do better. But if you have your own classroom and you make a mistake, it's a little bit more high stakes because it's your name on the report card and it's your classroom and you're responsible for those students. But if your mentor teacher is right there with you, then they can kind of help you and guide you and tell you what you can do better next time. So use as much of this time as you possibly can to lean on your mentor teacher, learn as much as you can. That way when you do have your own classroom, you're prepared. Granted, you won't be fully prepared because I don't think any first-year teacher is ever fully prepared, but you'll be a little bit more prepared than if you kind of sat back, didn't really do anything in the student teaching, and just kind of hoped for the best. So all of that to say, listen, learn, observe, soak it all in, ask as many questions as you can, and just do your best. So tip number 9 is something that I think is important, but I also wouldn't stress about it too much, and that is to get your mentor teacher and maybe the other teachers that helped you some kind of gift just to show your appreciation. It doesn't have to be some crazy extravagant gift because I'm sure they're not even expecting it. Student teachers don't get paid, so it's not like we have all this money to throw at gifts for all of these teachers. Get them something that is just thoughtful and they know that you were thinking of them and that you're thankful that they took you into their classroom, that they held you under their wing, and that they just gave you all of this knowledge. So at the beginning of the year, my biology team, we filled out these sheets of little things that we like, favorite snacks, favorite drinks, favorite places to eat, things that we could do for the other teachers to show that we appreciate them, all kinds of things like that. So I have all those lists to go off of to get my teachers that helped me a little something just to show my appreciation. But it doesn't have to be something crazy like I said in the beginning. It could just be a letter thanking them for all that they've done for you. It could be a Sonic gift card. It could be something so small just to show your gratitude and your appreciation for them. And I'm sure that they'll appreciate the fact that you appreciate them. So just get them some kind of small appreciation gift. So last tip, tip number 10, is just to have fun. Soak it all in. This is the only time that you'll be able to student teach. It's a crazy experience, especially right now during all the COVID stuff. It's been a crazy experience, but teaching is unlike any other profession. In my opinion, it is so rewarding and so humbling and just so incredible to see all of these kids' lives change right before your eyes, and just all of the strides that they take, all the growth that they have. It's just incredible. And to be surrounded by so many teachers that also have such a passion for helping kids, it's just truly unmatched by any other profession. Teaching is crazy, but it is so, so, so fun. Every day is going to be a different day. They're not all going to be good days by any means. I've had my fair share of bad days teaching, but I think it's important to not hold those bad days against yourself, your mentor teacher, your students, anyone. Start every day with a clean slate, because everybody has bad days. It could have been a student that really got on your nerves that day or pushed your boundaries or really tested you. It could have just been you not feeling very great that day. Therefore, your teaching wasn't that great. No matter what the case may be, start every day thinking that it'll be a great day, and usually it will be a great day. Those are all of my tips for student teaching. I'm sure there are so many other things that I could have said. These are just some things that I think are important, and I felt like it was important to share. I am so excited to be graduating in December and hopefully having my own class in January, and it's just going to be a crazy, crazy time being a first-year teacher during a pandemic, but I'm really excited for it. I love teaching and I just can't wait. All that being said, if you like teacher type content, I do vlogs, I do teacher outfits, I do all kinds of teacher videos, also lifestyle videos. So if you like that, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. If not, it's totally fine. I kind of get it, but I do really hope to see you in the next video. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Bye, friends.